Welcome, everybody. My name is Alice Miller, and I'm here to talk to you about a new program that we're introducing to the Biohack Lab. It's a fabulous program. It's called the Externalized Mind. And what the Externalized Mind program is a combination of modern neuroscience with ancient wisdom and modern wisdom. So what we've learned to date from way back in time till now are applied at the same time you're getting feedback on your own brain and you're learning how to make the change. So there's two goals of the program and they come together seamlessly. They're integrated. One is to optimize your brain. So we all are about our lives, we're functioning in some way or the other. Our sleep, maybe we have great sleep, maybe we don't have good sleep. We have our ability to focus or our ability to respond. We have all these things, activities, cognitions going on, and it's how do we do it at an optimum rate, or maybe we have a lag or some issue, dysregulation around it. That's what we want to do. We want to fix it and make sure that it's optimum for you. The other part is to expand your consciousness. There's no place in the brain that we can identify, there's your consciousness. It's about awareness. It's about you in relation to your world. And so those things we want to expand to give you more awareness, and we want to optimize your brain so you can function even better. And the two put together allows you to live your best life. Show up in the world in the best capacity that you have. The beauty of this training is that you can do practices, for example, 21 to 40 years of advanced meditation, great benefits, great outcome, quieter mind, more relaxed, being able to gauge your response versus reacting all over the place. All of a sudden you're noticing that you're choosing your response or not to respond. What's happening is the technology is speeding things up. So instead of taking 21 to 40 years, you're doing it in 5 days. It sounds phenomenal. And why we know that is to be true is that we can look at your EEG and see what the changes you're making. And it's the same pattern. If you do plant medicines, for example, you are changing your brain in certain ways that follow that same guideline, that follow that same trajectory. So here, you're learning how to do it for yourself, to put yourselves into those expanded states. So the whole idea is that you are learning how to control your own mind. And when you can control this, and there's nothing in your life that doesn't use this, you have that much more choice. You have that much more ability to create the reality that you want to have. So the big thing about life is our cognition, our ability to relate to the external world and our own internal world. And it's our mental processing, our mental activity. So there's two parts of cognition. One is us, our own mind, and how we relate to the external world, the what's outside there. And this is where my focus is in terms of this talk, is talking about the balance between our internal and external states. So if we have too much focus on our internal worlds, we might be ruminating. Oh, why did they do that? Do you notice the way they looked at me? Oh my God, whirl. Or too much focus on the external world. How many likes did I get on my Instagram account today? What are people thinking about me? I might be people pleasing. I'm really caught up in the external. Is finding that place, that balance between the internal and external. What we noticed in COVID is that people were isolated and became much more internalized, which wasn't good. So we ended up seeing a lot more mental health issues. People having to break through that isolation. It's time to travel again. I kind of like being at home. Do you want to go out for dinner? Let's eat here. So it's finding that balance. And it's really a mechanism of trial and error, getting out and doing things, trying new things on. So we have the external, where you go to the extreme, then how you feel, your mood, your sense of self are all based on what other people think, what's outside there. Too much on the internal, and we are ruminating, and we can't get out of that place, that internal space. So what the reason I called it externalized mind is that when you fix this, when you get more connected with who you truly are, then how you show up in the world is different. And then how we show up in the world affects everybody else around us. And the more we can become kinder, more loving human beings, it's a better place that we all want to live in, right? So what does the week at External Mind look like? First, we have caps. So we put a cap, a 19-channel cap on your brain, on your head, and we read your EEG. And this is where we can peek in and see, how's your sleep? How is your relationship to the external world? How is your relationship to your internal world? Do you have stress and anxiety? Do you have trouble spelling? Do you have short-term memory issues? So we can take a look at how effectively your brain is operating. And then more importantly, what we can do for it. Oops. So this is where we take a brain map, and we can see from this person that they have most likely sleep issues. We can look and see how, again, sleep issues, and we can look and see here by the connections, the coherence, that this guy is always, always stressed, always turned on. Where's the fire? How am I going to put it out? Boom, boom, boom. He was a pro football player, and he was a safety. And the safety position allows for, it's sort of like the quarterback for the defense. Going there, they're over there, they need to be here, boo, boo, boo. They're always on. So a perfect sport, perfect position for this person's brain. In life, super effective businessman. He was all over the world, doing all kinds of interesting things, aware of whatever global situation, economics, political, he has it all going. The problem is that brain doesn't serve him at home. So the same brain that's like at the boardroom table isn't so great at the dining room table, where you don't want to be, you know, pointing everybody in the right direction, or telling them what to do. So what he came in and what he learned is how to shut that off, how to regulate that. So in my job, super useful. With my children, not so good. So by the end of the week, he was able to regulate better and found himself super effective at work, and then more relaxed and engaged at home. So we look at everybody's brain and we see how well it's firing. Here we can see that he has a capacity to relax. He also has some great creativity, and yeah, has probably a very clear mind. So we can sort of peek underneath the hood and see what's operating, see what's at the. My screen's not lining up with my clicking here.
Number of the slide.
Yeah. They're not connected. Huh.
What slide are you trying to? What's the number of the slide?
Okay, just a minute. Let me go back here. Okay. So the underlying principle is for every experience you have as a living human being, you have an underlying pattern of brainwaves. So when you change your brainwaves, you change yourself at the level of your identity. So if you're in a state of anxiety, for example, your occipital alpha has just diminished. And there's no point ever trying to reason with somebody who's in anxiety because they can't reason. That part of their brain has dropped out for a moment. The best thing to do is to talk really slow, really calm, bring them to a place of calm. Then you can reason with them. But in the moment of that panic, anxiety, you're not going to get through. It's illogical, right? When somebody's in that state, or some or some issues are coming up, get calm and then make your decisions. Then look at it from a different place. But the whole idea is that every experience you have as a living human being. So when you're learning how to change your own brain waves, and when you're changing them around things, you end up with much more of your authenticity, much more living within your pure potential. So the basis of the program, it's not a neurofeedback program, it's a program where we use neurofeedback, is you're getting real-time immediate feedback on your own brain. Everything about the program is based on feedback. You're being facilitated, you're getting feedback on your experience, you're getting coached. In the case of neurofeedback, it's real-time immediate. So when your brain is operating, if you're in the range, you're getting positive reinforcement. When you're out of range, it's shifting. It's saying, no, come back, come back, come back. So the reward mechanism is understood by your brain. So if we sat you in the rooms and we said, okay, do neurofeedback, bam, you're going to get benefit from it. You're absolutely going to get benefit. But then you get in your own way. Your limitations, your belief systems, traumas, and we all have traumas, we all have issues, we all have places that subvert us from what we truly want and how we truly want to show up in the world. So the neurofeedback is an opportunity to change the brain, and then the consciousness element is an opportunity to learn how to get out of your own way, to find those blind spots and then go to the brain and change them. When we have a trauma, an issue, and if you wanted chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla ice cream when you were a 3-year-old and you had a meltdown, that's a trauma. That's a 3-year-old trauma, but it's a trauma. And we hold things in our brain until we don't hold them anymore, until we let them go. And you can say, oh, just let it go. Those are really pretty words. They usually mean nothing. I remember working with this guy, and he said, it was a teacher of mine, and he said to me, Alice, just let go. And I said, how the heck do you do that? I was like, how do you do that? And he went, what the heck does that even mean? And then I did the training, and that's exactly what it means. Easy, effortless, shift the brain. So neurofeedback is a foundational piece of the training. We do it in 2 different ways. One, we have the CAP training. And that's where when we looked at your brain map and we saw that this is overfiring, this is underfiring, this is too hyperconnected, this is hypoconnected. So we target that and we use audiovisual training for about 20 to 30 minutes. And it says, okay, try it this way. And your brain's like, no, I like going this way. And it's like, oh, try it this way. No, I like it this way. And it finally goes, oh, that's easier. That's more effortless. And then it starts going into that mechanism because your brain wants easy. However, we had created whatever's difficult, all of a sudden it's going in the direction that you want it to get the results that you want. So cap training, some people can sit there and they'll have a great sleep. They'll feel really rested. All of a sudden they're falling asleep because it's really working the brain, really encouraging the brain to change a behavior that you might have had for many, many years. And then we have gap training. And this is where you're doing it for a substantial amount of time. It's pure audio. And you're getting in there and you're changing where you're holding things. You are letting go at a deep level, at the level of the brainwave. It plays deeper than that. You can try and change cognition. Like, I'm no longer going to get mad at my brother. Okay, really hard, and then he does something. It's like, "Argh." When you do the training and you shift where you're holding the issues with him at the level of the brainwave, he can walk in and do something that used to irritate you. You don't even notice. You're oblivious to it. I remember one guy. It was really funny. It was a couple came for training, and they did the week's training, and then they left. And they lived in a small town in interior BC, and they're leaving. They have to go through Vancouver. And Vancouver is like a big city, maybe not as big as Miami, but traffic. And they're driving through the city, and they get to the other end of it. And his wife looked at him and said, "Jeff, where'd all the assholes go today?" Because he was oblivious. He wasn't monitoring everybody else's driving. He didn't know it. And he's like, "Boop, something's changed. Something's different." And throughout the week, you're guided. So you're facilitated and coached. And we all need that coaching. Can't really tell you how many times I've done the training. There's different levels of it. I still make sure that I have a coach because we can't see our own blind spots. And it's 5 full days, and you're married to us for those 5 days. You want to lighten your workload. You're here from 9 till 6, maybe even 6:30, and you're engaged. It's a mystery school. We don't say that. That's not, in the brochure, but it's a mystery school, and you're coming in and you're making the kind of progress from 21 to 40 years of advanced Zen meditation, like 2 hours a day, meditating. You're doing this in 5 days. So you really want to be here, present. So this is, again, looking at someone's brain map. We're looking at their absolute power and their coherence. And this person's brain is operating kind of slow. There's 250 milliseconds between your external stimulation and your internal response. And your brain works in connectivity, right? So it's different areas are going to light up depending on the task at hand, depending on what you're doing. So here we can see from the EEG that their brain is operating slower than optimum. However, over here in the beta area, it's firing a little too fast. So this is where the cap training is going to target that and try and get it. So ideally, these are 100% white. So here, pardon? Yeah. So here's the norm. So white is your norm. So you're being compared in this instance to a normative database of people with no clinical symptoms whatsoever. They've been studied for different things and then amalgamation of it. So the white is you're in the normative. So here, the blue, over here, you can see the scale, it's a reduction. And then over here from the green to the red is an elevation. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing that you're not in the norm. It just means there's an opportunity or potential to make a shift. So as part of it's a discussion with you. If you're noticing life is fantastic, and if I say, how are you for decision making? You might say, oh, in this case, this person would be, I have a hard time making decisions, or I'm not making really good decisions. And we can see that from the reduction in the frontal lobes, all right, in theta, in alpha, in beta. So this person's probably not very good at decision making. So then we would target that in the CAP trainings. Okay, here, try doing it this way. Try doing it this way. And then in the gap trainings, it's reinforcing that and also helping to expand into better brainwave functioning. Again, this is the idea of the coherence. So here it's overfiring, and 6 months later, it's better. There's more improvement to do. Generally, it overcorrects, and then I'll come back to the normative here. And here, underfiring, and it's cleared up a lot more. So yeah, the white is the normative, the ideal. What was going to mention on that? So this is a case study of somebody. They came in and the frequencies are here. We don't see the number, but we can tell. Oh my goodness, oh, here we go. Okay, here's the legend: delta, alpha, beta, theta, high beta. And here I can tell the frequency of where they're at. So the thing that you want to know is this was the person on day one. This person was really interesting. She had an obsessive compulsion to document in her brain everything that went on. So she went here, she was recording how she was going to tell somebody else, like to the minutia. Every second her brain was on. So she was super effective in her life. She, in terms of career performance, she had a good marriage, super charged. But the thing is, every 3 weeks she would need to go and lie down for like 2, 3 days. She'd be wiped. Because can you imagine using that much cognition every day? How exhausting that would be, having to document everything you're doing. So she would be wiped. And it was like a pattern. She could set her clock. Oh, I have to go lie down and I can't do anything for 2 or 3 days. This is her at the end of the week. So we see everything organized. We see theta up. So here it was below, beta was above theta. So that's that very much engaged in external world. There's stress, there's everything going on. And here, everything is in the right order. I'd like to see her delta come up. However, real big shift there. And that's more relaxed, more at peace. So she can still execute. She can still be super effective, but she's not wearing herself out in the process. And she's much happier. I mean, one of the big takeaways is a quiet mind. And there's nothing I would trade to have a quiet mind.
Here's how variable are results not from the if someone wasn't doing the training, you test them on 2 different days, how different will their result be on one day versus another? Because we need to do this across a large population.
Yeah. Good question. So your brain's going to be different every second of every moment of every day, right? So if we did it at 5 o'clock at night and the next morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, we would see some difference in the pattern, marginal difference. Delta is more state specific, so it depends on how much sleep you had the night before, what's going on, how's your microbiome. It really is more at that moment. The other ones we can see an absolute trend. This is how you're showing up. And then the changes that you're making, say you were to do a 10-day Vipassana, how do you say that word? The retreat. You would see, say if you did day 1 and then you did day 9 or 10, 11, you would see some changes. And then if you did another one 3 months, 6 months later, you probably see some more changes. What we do, there's latency in the program. So we'll see a change, for example, day 1, day 5. These are dramatic. You're talking 21 to 40 years of advanced meditation being done in 5 days. So it never gets old in terms of seeing the change. And more importantly, we can see the measure of the change and go, wow, but also what your experience, your internal experience is like. So,
You can describe briefly what alpha, beta, and delta is.
Sure. Okay, so the change is remarkable and sustained over time. Mhm.
Identify results being results from the system and the work that's done, as opposed to withdrawing from our daily lives and just having a more restful state, like during a Vipassana retreat, as an example.
Yeah.
And then, durable are they?
Yeah. Again, good question. So what we did in another iteration of this is we did a study on what happened when people changed, when people did the program and the changes that took place. And they were remarkable. So 72% went on to their income grew. They expanded their business, started companies, they got promotions, they got new jobs. 20% went on to higher education. They all of a sudden were going to university. My sister at 60 went off to university and got a fine arts degree. It's not that she thought of, she had, of course, had in her mind that she would like to do that, but had not done it. Your capacity grows, it changes, and relationships improve. So there's really telltale signs in terms of the experience in your external world and how you show up in life, which are much more pronounced than, say, you took a week off work and went on vacation. The difference too is you can take a week off. If you're really stressed, never take 1 week, always make sure it's 2 weeks. Because it takes a week to unwind and a week to retain. But you'll go back to your life, you'll on the vacation, you'll say, oh, I'll never let myself get stressed. I'll never do this and that. And then you get back and within 2 weeks, vacation? What vacation? You're right back to your old patterns. With this, you're changing yourself at the level of your identity. So you're changing how you perceive the world and how you interface with the world. And the more you do that, the feedback from the external world changes. I remember one woman, excuse me, she was First Nations, and she had a big trauma when she was younger, with these white kids bullying her and doing all kinds of horrible things. And she did a big piece of work around it. And at the end of the week, off she went. She phoned me about a month later and she said, Alice, I can't believe how nice white people are to me now. What changed was her engagement with the world, right? What changed internally, removing those traumas, removing those issues. I look at my father, he did it when he was 80. And he used to have a nap about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No more nap, no more tired. His creativity went to a whole new level. He was already super creative, great artist, writer, and he went up into another stratosphere, really, with the training. And things that he could never talk about, all of a sudden he was talking about. And my brothers and sisters were like, what? So yeah, we're seeing these pronounced phenomenal changes because you're removing your own limitations. And you're also, this is really a key thing that happens. At one point in the training, you'll pop. And in that moment, you've popped out of your skin encapsulated ego and you have experience of your integrated self. And with that, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have an ego, but that's not who I am. I'm so much more. And then your relationship to yourself changes and your relationship to everybody else changes as a result. Does that answer?
Yeah.
So the question on the Zoom, what are these brainwaves? So delta is mostly associated, most people would associate it with deep sleep. Also, if you're a lizard, that's the only brainwave you have. They have no emotional. You can, bump into them. They're not going to get mad at you. So they, keep their blood flowing and their, self working. And that's true for us as well. It's like a foundational wave. If you have too much delta, you're going too much. It's like you're walking into your house, you turn on the kitchen light, and every light in the house goes on. Might be a little exhausting at the end of the day. You're using too much energy. If you don't have enough, your capacity to function is compromised. So then we have theta, which is the purple line here. In theta, we quite often think about it in terms of I'm just about to fall asleep or I'm just about to wake up. Does anybody lucid dream? Yeah. Excellent place to change things. If you're having a dream, you don't like it, make it different. You have enough cognition to do that. And it makes a significant impact on your life. So it's something we can all develop and work with. However, theta is also used in decision making, creativity. So it's also related to the subconscious. So we're not consciously more alpha, we're very conscious, beta, gamma, we're much more conscious about it. Theta is operating below our subconscious. So it's used, for example, in emotional regulation. It's used in all kinds of cognitive activities. However, it's the driver beneath it, right? That you can work with. That's what you can practice. No, there's no negative to that. However, if you wanted to, I think dreams are fantastic and useful tools for governing your life or working with your life. So one of the things, if you wanted to remember your dreams, is when you wake up, don't move your head. As soon as you do, you change the neurochemistry, right? So keep your head very, very still. And then if you get a snippet, run it back and forth a few times, got it, and then talk on your phone or write it right away. The more you do this, the more you'll remember. Alpha. Alpha. Come on in. Hi. No problem. So alpha. Alpha is love. It is, again, used in creativity. It is about being able to relax, very much clear-minded, and presence. We can activate it, and I'll get to that later, and enhance that so that it becomes more accessible to you. There's different things that you can do. So it's a really good place to have, or a good place to be, right? In good alpha. Beta is a relationship to the cognitive, what's the word? Cognitive, no. All right. It's more related to our cognition. So with that, it is about thinking. It's about details. It's about stress. When we're feeling stress, we get into more beta. You want beta. You want to be able to think. You want to be able to grocery shop. You need to get that business report done. You go into alpha to get all the great ideas. Brainstorm. There I am. And then beta. Focus. Okay. And then high beta is part of the beta spectrum. And it's much more engaged with our external world, how we're engaging with the external world. And again, we see a lot of people who have high stress anxiety. We'll see that firing too much. We bring it down and they're able to relax, bump more into alpha. All these brainwaves, you're in these brainwaves, in and out of them all the time. Where this might be more pronounced, this might be, less, but they're all operating for the most part. And then gamma, so here is high beta gamma, and we can tell by the frequency up in here. And gamma, and some people have too much anxiety, they might have too high gamma. But the good part of gamma is different parts of the brain are firing at the exact same time in the exact same phase. You have your best eureka moments. Alpha is about aha moments. So you're working on a problem, you have a shower, or you're talking to a friend, all of a sudden you get the answer. Alpha just spread across your head. That aha. When you have the eureka moment, that's gamma. So different parts are in exact same phase. So the illustration that I would give for that is I'm the CEO of a company and I'm looking at potentials, I'm brainstorming, and all of a sudden have this idea. And in that moment, I see how my clients are going to like it. I see what my marketing people are going to talk about it. I see operationally what I have to put in place. It's eureka. I got it. Okay. So those are the different brainwaves.
Adam, pulling together those great pieces of information.
Yeah. Yeah. Coalesce it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just wondering if I have a slide that's coming up. No, I don't. Okay. So, 0.05 to 4, we think of delta. That's the speed of the wave. So, and it's a slow wave like this. And then theta, 4 to 7, is still a slow wave. And then 8 to 13, some people say 8 to 12, 8 to 13, doesn't really matter, is alpha. And that is a little bit faster. And so, you see a little bit skinnier in between. And then beta is between 14 to 30. And we see that as a fast wave. And then gamma is a very fast wave. The difference in terms of what we do, so I send the reports for a deeper dive. We look at from a neuroclinician standpoint, and he'll look at the wave and measure the distances, but also the phase. So if somebody's wave is sinusoidal, very smooth, very good wave. If it's a little choppy, pointed spiky ends, it's like, oh, what else is happening here? There's something that we can address and make it into these more smoother waves. So more efficiency, more effectiveness. This is somebody else, an example. I called it limitless. Here they are. Their alpha is so tucked in, so they don't have a lot of alpha. This person quite possibly could be depressed. They see towards the end of the session, this is again the day one baseline. They're starting to up in alpha, but they're not able to sustain it. It's they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. So not functioning at their best. Then we come over here in day 5. I don't know if you can see it from where you're sitting, where the alpha is not only at a higher level, it's sustained. They're able to be in it. Here it's all jumbled up. And here we're starting to see where it's more clearly delineated. And the idea is you want everybody in their own swim lanes. And I remember one guy, he came in, he called what I call spaghetti brains. Like everything was mishmash, convoluted, da-da-da. At the end of the week, he had an exquisite experience where he felt unconditional love. And he said it was the first time in his life he ever felt love, that he could say, this is love. And his brains, where everybody was in his own swim lane, they were no longer convoluted. He noticed that he had clarity of thought. He could think really clearly. The other thing about gamma, so just the eureka moments, but also unconditional love and bliss. Who doesn't want more of that? So freedom and choice. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And our response lies our growth and our freedom. So what happens is you are creating more space between external stimulation and internal response. Your mind is quieter. You're freeing up the real estate that we have in here. Instead of thinking about what you had for dinner last night and what you're going to have for dinner tomorrow, or what so-and-so said and what so-and-so did, and why did I say pillow talk? Sorry, bite your pillow stuff. You're now having a choice. You're present. Your mind's quiet. And you're realizing that You have a choice if you want to respond or not to respond versus reacting all over the place. And that's freedom, absolute freedom. Life is still going to happen, but how you show up and how you respond and how you deal with it. I remember one little girl, she was about 12 years old, and she was in a fist fight every single day. And she was scrawny, and I was afraid of her. She was in a fist fight every day in the principal's office, and she did the training. And about 6 months later, I was in the community, and the principal said, you know, she has not been in one fight since she's come back. She still gets mad, but she's able to walk away. And then she comes back. And she said, the interesting thing is her life got harder, like her family life. Things fell apart a little bit, but she was still able to maintain that sense of stillness. I had a little visit with her, and what I noticed was how much more of a leader she became. This little leader, very had more presence. Really, really nice to see. So here are some of the side effects. Improved relationships. That's the number one thing people notice, especially your relationship to yourself. Better decision-making skills, brain optimization, so you can do more with less. You're not taxing yourself so much. Quiet mind, ego awareness, so you know when your ego's out of control. We all have them. And the question is, who's running the ship? So one of my favorite teachers said, we all have lampshades. Everybody has their own lampshade. And there's nothing wrong with our lampshades. You have one, I have one, they're very pretty, da-da-da. The problem is we become overly identified with them. We forget that there's a bulb inside. And so when you become aware, when you have the experience of the bulb, all of a sudden you can be aware, notice this. I'm being an absolute jerk right now. Shift. Higher IQ and EQ. We used to, 10, 12 years ago, we used to tell people the reason they would do it is they would have a higher IQ and EQ, and that's why people would sign up. If you were to tell them your improved relationships, it's like, no, my relationships are perfect. I don't need any help there. But that's what they would come in for. And then they would see this whole swath of benefits and be quite delighted. More creativity, more resilience, less depression and anxiety. Remember one guy, he came in, he was with his grandson, and he was there because he thought he was for the sake of his grandson. I said, you've got to do it too. Oh, really? I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. So on the first day I looked at his brainwaves, I said, any chance you might be depressed? He said, no, I've never been depressed. I said, okay. The end of the week, we were looking at his brainwaves, they had completely changed. And he said to me, you know, I think I might have been depressed all my life. I have never felt this happy. I said, wonderful. And the thing is, what's built into the mechanism of the program is that first of all, your brain is learning. The first few days, your brain is simply learning. And then you get it. And then it's retention. So that when you leave, it continues to wire and fire that way, which is why there is a latency in the program. And when we're back in the area or you're in the area, within 3 to 6 months, we'll do another brain map. We'll be able to show you what's different, what's changed.
Kids.
Some. One of my favorite stories is this woman who had fetal alcohol syndrome. She was about 35, 36. And she came marching in on the fourth day. And she said, it works. I know this program works. I said, well, how do you know that? She said, well, I was stuck on the same level of Candy Crush for 3 months and I finally broke through. I'm like, great. Boy, he was 15 years old and he had high spectrum ADD and ADHD. And he was in a special needs classroom. He came and did the training. At the end of the week, I said to him, what do you notice that's different? And he said, I can stop and think before I do something now. I'm like, well, that's everything. And his little brother piped up and said, he's so much easier to play with. I said, great. So he went back to his school and he ended up having a friend. So he never had a friend. Now he had a friend to play with, and he ended up being going out of the special needs classroom and integrated into the regular classroom. He's still on the spectrum, but it wasn't as debilitating. Yeah. So it really depends on the individual, but we did see some, and we didn't do a study specifically on autism. There is some literature out there where it is very good, and there's specific protocols that are more helpful for depending on what the issues are. But the CAP training addresses those, and then there's actual other protocols that we'd apply.
Bottom line is, yeah, or like there are
Oh, very much. Yeah, there is literature, very, very much. I personally haven't, I've worked with autism, but I have not participated in a study about them. What measure?
Well,
I've never seen anybody come completely off the spectrum. Yeah. So these are the best practices at home that you can do in your life now to make a difference in your life. Gratitude. That's the simplest, easiest thing, and everybody harps on to gratitude. From a brain perspective, we can show you. Put somebody on and say, okay, feel gratitude. And it's like night and day. It lights up. Your alpha goes up. Your beta goes down if you have too much. So not only thinking about gratitude is one thing, not so effective. Feeling gratitude is super effective. So feeling into gratitude and then going to places where people have felt grateful for you. You know, somebody does something really nice, and you go, oh yeah, thanks, whatever. Let yourself actually anchor, let it land, and you'll see the difference we don't have any monitor for you at home, but you'll notice the difference, the shift in how you're feeling. It's a really good practice. Meditation, of course, there's different types of meditation. Some are more effective than the other. The key is do it. Say you do it you only have 10 minutes. That's great. So a bad habit for meditators is to meditate. I feel good. Oh, I got to go. I'm very busy. No, meditate and then bring this into your experience of life. So don't go out of it, bring it into. And sometimes 10 minutes is good. Some people who meditate for hours, their brain has hijacked them the whole time. Not so effective. So presence. If you want to learn a simple meditation, monitor your breath. Breathe in, breathe out, relax. Presence, practicing presence. So when we're really, really busy, when we're multitasking and we're all over the place, you're caught up in everything that's going on, and there's no sense of self, no sense of being. So the idea of bringing your attention back to your being, no matter what you're doing. I'm aware that I am standing here talking to you as I'm talking. So a lot of people like Thich Nhat Hanh will talk about doing it when you're doing dishes. Practice presence. Device fast. Unplug from social media. You know how we talked about when people are too fixated on the external world? Our devices, if you've gone out for dinner with somebody and the first thing they do is put their phone on the table, right away their thoughts are on that phone. When people are doing the training, we confiscate their phone just for the day. And because there's a study done where your awareness goes even to your bag where the phone is there. So you want to take time off of social media, take time away from that. Cross-cultural experiences. So again, we're talking about neurogenesis, changing the brain, and try different experiences. Things that make you a little bit uncomfortable, as long as they're safe. Try them out. And of course, community. We talked earlier about the effect of COVID where people went into isolation. We realized how important community is, how important connection is. Somebody could be an introvert or an extrovert, is still needing that personal connection, right? So, and try things, as I said, that are uncomfortable, new. So one of the things about, keeping your brain young and active is try new things, learn to speak another language, learn bridge, learn something, or always be, yeah, stretching and growing in some way.
No one encourages referrals from our network and unknown on the community.
This isn't teed up, so I can. Known encouraged to be first with our networks, and unknown changes them. Yeah. Yeah. So human beings, there's no limits. There are no limits to where you can go with this. Unbelievable things you can experience. And so this is an opportunity, this program, and doing the other things that I'm suggesting are a way to liberate, get out of your own way and allow yourself to experience. There's so much more in life that are all right in here. We don't have to go to Mars. There's so much here to explore. It's incredibly fun. And the next question that we've kind of done the questions. Does anybody still have any questions? No? All right. Thank you so much for being here. They're 5 days, like they start Mondays to Fridays, and they're here periodically. We have some dates in April. I think we have some dates in June, July. So yeah, they're regularly offered here. You're married to us, yeah. You come in at 9, you leave at 6:30, you go home and you're exhausted, sleeping. So every day, every single day, you're running a marathon with your brain.
Feedback
For many hours, but no, for most of it. Okay. The number of hours on is part of the secret sauce. However, you're doing a lot. When you're not doing it, you are debriefing, getting coaching, eating. That's about it. The cost is regularly 15,000. We're running a special right now. Natasha can tell you more about what that looks like. And for how long that's running. What was your other?
So did you say it's 20-minute sessions?
No, I said the cap could be 20. Could be longer, depending on what your capacity is. No, that's part of the secret sauce. So what's important is no, of course not. But what's important is how much time you're on it, what the frequency is, and the type of feedback. There's all kinds of ingredients that go into it. And so we make sure that different parts of the brain. Yeah. So the location is dependent a lot on what we're doing for that particular.
So do you see any significant benefits with addiction?
Yes. Yes. It's interesting because I know some people, we were talking after their training. They were personal friends of mine. And they were saying how, and they weren't talking about the training. They were just talking in general, what's different in their life. It's like, I don't drink as much anymore. And the other person said, yeah, me too. I used to drink every night. I'm not doing it anymore. Gabor Mate, who's got quite some fame and he's a psychologist, said people don't have an addiction problem, they have a trauma problem. So you deal with the trauma, you're going to deal with the addiction. But we've noticed, and depending on the person and their willingness, that yeah, the addictions go down. I knew somebody personally who was addicted to meth. It's a really, really rough shape. And she did it the first time lighter. I had her do it 3 times. She didn't have it anymore. She was off meth, functioning in life. Now, one of the things is how you show up. Sometimes people aren't even thinking about their addictions or not even wanting to change. They'll change and other people won't. So it's not a cure-all.
Is there a limit of age, too young or too old to do the training?
Can you just repeat the question?
Okay. So the question is, what's the age limits? So the right now with neurofeedback itself, they can start kids as young as 5, and with good effect. I personally, for this type of program, the people have to be able to take another perspective. So the minimum there would be 7. I personally wouldn't work with anybody younger than 7. It would be 12 and above. And the reason for that is for the program itself. For this type of program, for them to get the most out of it, 12 seems to be the youngest I would go for. And the oldest, doesn't matter. The oldest person I worked with was 89 years old. And yeah, the youngest was 12. I've seen 8-year-olds. It's like, yeah, they don't really have that kind of ability to sit still.
If you wanted to have a family do it, would you recommend that they do together or individual sessions so the other family members are not there?
It depends on the family. So if it's a kid, then we definitely need an adult with them. But in terms of families, if you can have an honest to goodness conversation with that family member, unrestricted, open, do it together. If you can't, do it separately. Or if you're wherever you feel most comfortable.
Do you recommend that everybody does, like, how do people prepare for a program like this? Is there a specific diet that you recommend or things that you would recommend that they do ahead of time? So like, what if you eat that an impact of right?
Yes, yes.
Right. So is there something like you can have like 2-3 months ahead of time?
Okay, so for this type of program, the reason why it's so valuable within a biohacking lab, biohacking lab, is you have access to all kinds of modalities to help deal with those issues. The gut biome very much impacts your brain. We see that more in the delta when it shows up. So as a rule, there's no recommendations. You show up, you're going to do the training, you're going to get lots out of it. To enhance it, if you are able to be measured and monitored to make sure that you're at your optimum state, great, but definitely not a requirement. You won't get any more out of, you will be able to do more out of it. So you'd be able, in theory, it's not been measured. You might be able to get a little bit more out of it, but you're still going to make fundamental change no matter how you show up. And the key is, and what we notice sometimes that people have low voltage or there is a gut biome issue, then afterwards, keep working with that, deal with that. And you're in the right place right here to do that. You have the right resources. Anybody else? Any Zoomies? Nope. Thank you very much, everybody.